Show you how we can use context in our literature paragraphs. We're going to use Christmas Carol, and we're going to imagine the question is, how is poverty explored in Christmas Carol? So my first opening point is going to be looking at how Scrooge at the beginning has no compassion for the poor, doesn't take social responsibility, has no empathy for them. I set that point up nicely. And then I've got to get to my evidence. I'm going to use the evidence in stave 1 when the charity workers come and ask him for money. And effectively he says, if they can't afford to eat, I'd rather let them die and reduce the surplus population. I'll then explain, analyse, comment on that evidence. And as part of that analysis, I'll slip in my context. And the context of that quote, surplus population, that phrase was coined by an economist called Thomas Malthus, who was writing at the same time as Dickens was writing. He was using charts to show how fast the population was growing, and he used a chart to show how quickly we could produce food. He showed we're no longer going to be able to produce enough food to keep up with the growing population. So the conclusion was eventually we're going to have famine and disease and not enough food to feed everyone. So the rich and powerful people at the time used that as an excuse to not give to charity, to not help the poor. We're going to become overpopulated. We need to reduce the population. They're going to die at some point. Why not now? So that could be a way of slipping the context in. Then we would need to always talk about, why is Dickens doing this? Well, Dickens was anti the Malthus theory. He believed it's not there's not enough to go around, it's that the rich and powerful are consuming too much and keeping it for themselves. That leaves the poor without anything. And he wanted us all to share more equally. That was the message. But in terms of how you use context in a paragraph more generally, start with your point that answers the question, put your evidence in, as you explain, comment and analyse the evidence, slip the context in where appropriate, and always try and link it back to what Dickens is saying. What's his message?